In 1993, I started doing sound for a few local bands, and that soon progressed into a full-time gig at one of Windsor's larger clubs, known as the Loop, which was right above the historic Coach and Horses. Photographing bands followed soon after, and more recently, even making videos with them. I've always enjoyed the technical end of the music industry, and production of vinyl was no different.
Record collecting is on the rise. In 2022, vinyl sales surpassed CD sales for the first time in 35 years. And like many, my collecting has just begun. Come along with me on my first year of collecting as I talk with other vinyl collectors, local record store owners, as well as bands about what makes them spin.
On this episode, we visit the haunted Vintage and Vinyl. We'll flip sides and get deep into the groove, talking with bands about the current record production options. We'll get schooled at Red Spade Records, and we take a trip with the Brady Alexanders.
I'm Six Langman, and this is Spinning Stories.
I've always collected something. Always. Stamps, coins, and again, I always had hobbies like that sort of thing. I don't collect stamps and coins anymore now. I collect records and a few other weird things. The first two crates here, the new arrivals. When some people walk in, they don't have a lot of time. They walk in a store like, oh, it's overwhelming. I always tell them, first time, you're never gonna see every record here. It's overwhelming. I'm here to help. It's gotten a lot more organized in the past year since I met Julie. She's helped that way. We have an 80s section, we have a classic rock section, we even have a heavy metal, full metal closet. I mean, there's every record store, as far as an independent record store, is gonna be different, and that's what's one of the beautiful things about it. Here, this is a 110-year-old house. Some people even think the house is haunted. Yeah, especially the closet area, but I don't know, I definitely feel.
That's where you keep the metal, though.
Yes, that's the full metal closet, so we joke about that.
Maybe it's just the ghost of Ronnie James Dio.
It could be, it could be.
Oh, the Brandies and the Bluestones, yeah. So these are like, again, the fact that they signed them, like, means tons to me. I love it that they would sign their records. I have zero extra work to do to figure out if I should make someone's record. None. I already know. I already know who should have a record. I know who's willing to tour. I know who's passionate. I know who can perform the thing live rather than just sounding good recorded. If you need $1,000 because you don't have 1,000 and you and your buddies don't have 1,000, it's way more important that that record is made than someone has to give you 1,000 and wait for that 1,000 to come back. Go make the record. I don't care what the artwork looks like. I don't care who produces it. I don't care about any of the details. You're the artist. And my stipulation is you do the album release at one of my venues and you pay me back that money right away. So at the door, if you have a $10 cover minimum for an album release and you sell 40 records, you're paying me back that 1,000 instantly, and you're making money, and the other 200 copies of the record you have, it's all gravy. That's all you. And that's how it should be.
Buying them out front was kind of not in the cards for this one, so we decided to go with a crowdfunding service and just see if there was any interest in it. The way that works is you have to sell 100 records up front, at least. And then they'll actually go to print. So we kind of, put it out there in the world, crowdfunding, and then did a lot of promo around it, and we ended up selling the 100 records after there was a little bit of a scary time there where we didn't think we'd sell them all, but we did end up doing it. And then a couple months later, they all went to manufacturing and sent them out.
I've put out tons of albums, and I've pressed 6 or 7 now of those albums, and I'm probably not going to be able to press another record for at least 5 years because of the delays in production due to demand and the rising costs of actually making the records themselves. It gets expensive, not just like the making of it and the shipping of it, but the storing of it, the carrying of it. You do have to physically load the vinyl into a venue to sell it. All that stuff gets really expensive. The vinyl resurgence is really good because it's awesome that young people are buying vinyl, but it also makes it really, really, really difficult for bands to pull it off. That is going to get harder and harder. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll have these, like, every 1 or 2 years I'll put out a full length that I sort of like, I tour really hard and I work into the ground, and then there's going to be these like periodic kind of collector's items that I self-release that I'll do with Robyn, Red Spade.
January of 2019, and moved out to the mighty Toronto into Lacquer Channel Mastering. Under the guidance and tutelage of Kevin Park, I learned all things record cutting that I did not know before. can't say enough about Kevin Park. I wouldn't be a record cutter without him, and I surely wouldn't be doing the projects that I'm doing without his encouragement. All of the good Canadian records in your collection, Kevin's probably had a hand in them. If you look in the dead wax, you'll see a little KP. Once I started to know what to look for in my own collection, I was like, I have so many of your records, Kevin. And he's like, oh, well, that's good. I hope that you like them. And I said, yeah, I do. And I would just be so excited every time I got to watch him cut lacquers. It's so permanent that it gives me anxiety, that permanence where that lacquer now goes to be plated. And it's got to be like the most perfect copy, and like, there's no do-overs, no takesies, backsies. That paired with the big Apollo fire in February of 2020 kind of kept me in my plastic lane, where I was like, nobody is going to have the ability to give me lacquers to mess up on and learn, because they're literally liquid gold at this point. So I am going to get really good at cutting plastic, and also cutting plastic allows me to do really arty, weird things. It allows me to do 1 or 2 copies for people and keep it accessible and affordable and really niche for people.
This gave me an idea, so I made a call to a few bands that I've recently worked with.
We are cutting a split
Oh, this is brilliant.
12-inch with Age of Wolves and Gypsy Chief Goliath.
Oh my God.
It's on a 12-inch X-ray. So like X-rays like they used to do in the Czech.
What do they call it, bone music?
Yeah. So we're doing that.
That's really smart. I love it.
Do you mind if I take one little detour while we were talking about the lathe stuff before I forget? Fun fact, this very house used to be the home of a record label called Detroit Underground.
Hero. Him and his partner at the time, Annie Hall, they were both musicians. They bought this device from this guy in Germany.
They had one of those machines upstairs in where it's now my office, and they were cutting records here, yeah.
It's not really the most conducive way to like pumping out records, but it is cool for making these like hyper limited things.
A lot of people really like the optics of it, and they're like, oh, it's so cool, until they're here for the whole day, seeing the same record for 8 hours, and they're like, how do you do this all day? Maybe it's my obsessive nature, I'm not really sure. I really like the tactileness of it, and I like the focus of it. I mean, that was definitely tested doing 500 copies of the same record for the Arkells.
For Arkells?
Well, I mean, fangirl moment, I did 125 records for Dallas Green under his name, City and Color. In 2019, that was kind of like a big deal for me to get that record, being nobody, getting to obsess over one of my favorite singers' songs. So I did a bunch of extra copies because I went through and re-listened really critically, and I was like, this isn't good enough for Dallas, so then I would cut another one. This isn't good enough for Dallas, so then I would cut another one, and I wound up doing, I think, like 185 because I was just like, this one's not good enough, scrap.
We got a run of 1,000, and I think, yeah, we're almost out of them, so that's pretty good. Most of their record, like physical record sales through that label are all vinyl. Like we didn't ship anything to Germany and the UK CD-wise. It was all vinyl sales.
I think like one thing we all learned, as the band gets bigger, the expenses get bigger. So you kind of have to put your ego aside and like realize that you have to keep reinvesting in yourself. So even though we sold almost 1,000 records, we know that, you know, that means we're gonna have to order more, and that's another expense.
So we got like directly 10 grand, and then the label got 40 grand.
It's really different having that kind of backing, but like the actual money part is kind of like weight off your shoulders when you're just trying to be a band.
Sure. For the CD, it was kind of like more digital artwork, and for the vinyl, he put some like paintbrush strokes on the vinyl artwork to make it different for you know, analog versus digital. The CD's digital, the album's analog.
I think doing a pressing, like, you have a bit of freedom to give someone something special. If they're gonna spend like $40 on your music, you know, to give them like the little gift of like seeing it like in a different way, and even like, you know, it's like everyone gets that experience of like opening it up and reading the credits and stuff like that. You can put like posters and stuff in it, and like it's just kind of like an extra little thank you to the people that really love your music and you know, decide to make that purchase and
Yeah.
want to keep this in their collection, stuff like that. It's a big deal, so you want to make sure that it's special for them.
The cover alone like really reflects the music and then like eclectic nature of the songs. Going through, it's not really like a concept as to like structure of songs or anything. But you know, like we have like the first thing you hear on the beginning of our album is like a like up into the riff, and then we definitely wanted the last song to be the longest song, which is Space Opus. It's kind of like a long, crazy psych rock song. To close it out, just like everybody's like, oh, thank God that's done. That was a trip.
Join me next time as I take you down to Windsor's newest record store, Going Through Vinyl. We'll talk to vinyl addicts about their inherited collections and just how they organize them. And we'll catch up with Windsor's cutest band, Pony. All this and more on the next Spinning Stories.